Michigan has had I don't even know where to begin with the storylines, and it's so back and forth. I can summarize it as best as I can, just trying to keep up with it, because first it was Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, and Connor Stallions allegedly went to all these lengths to steal signs from opponents, sending a guy to Penn State versus UMass. Apparently, Connor Stallions was allegedly, right? I'm going to use the word allegedly a lot.
Right.
Was on the sideline of Central Michigan versus Michigan State. And then now comes this counter argument. I don't know if I can call it a counter suit or whatever it was, that the Big Ten has conspired together. The other schools in the Big Ten have teamed up together to steal Michigan signs. So as the Michigan expert, what the heck is going on? How can you translate it for the Penn State fan base here?
Well, first of all, you did a great job there, because I call this the octopus story, because it literally has 8 different shoot-off stories, and you just hit half of them right there. And the one I think is the most interesting, really, and it's not getting any play at all, is the Connor Stallions Central Michigan story, because people forget Jim McElwain, in between the time he was fired at Florida and the time he took the Central Michigan job, he was the wide receivers coach at Michigan in 2019. And that overlaps when Connor Stallions has been, they have to have had known each other. And now you fast forward to September 1st of the Chippewas game against Michigan State, and there's this mystery figure on the sideline. These coaches have been with each other every day for the last, 8 weeks coming up to this game. Are you going to tell me not one assistant coach looked over to Connor or whoever that was on the sideline and said, "Yo, dude, who are you? You're wearing the coach's shirt. You're not one of us." Jim McElwain knows who this guy was. I think it was Connor Stallions. I think Jim McElwain knew who it was. I think he knew a press pass was issued, and the NCAA is going to bore down on that, and they're going to start investigating that. They already have. And I think that's the side angle, the thread in the sweater to watch on this story as it unfolds. We've all got our eye on the ball on Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, and that's where it should be. But wait to see what happens with this Central Michigan investigation as well. I'm very intrigued by that. But yeah, there are so many different storylines going on. I don't even know if Harbaugh is going to be on the sideline Saturday against Penn State or not. We're still waiting for the suspension to come down or not. Yeah. I read a report today at 4:30 this afternoon that I'm wondering if the Big Ten's getting cold feet legally. They may lean toward just a significant fine and a public admonishment of Jim Harbaugh, which would be great for the Wolverines because they got more money than anybody, and a fine means nothing.
Yep. Yeah, that's somebody was saying that too. About $1 to $2 million would essentially be chump change for these institutions. And this. It almost, so the Houston Astros, and I can't go off too much of a tangent here. The Houston Astros, the reason all of this came to light is because they requested immunity. They got it. And basically, well, we'll trade honesty for, or we'll trade, the word, I guess the word I'm looking for is innocence, right? Or no punishment. We'll trade no punishment for our honesty. And I don't know if it's going to come to that for Michigan. It seems like the storybook is almost setting up. Okay, Jim Harbaugh doesn't necessarily ride off into the sunlight, but NFL jobs have been calling his name for quite some time now. He's been flirting with the NFL, returning to the NFL, and wanting to leave Michigan. And there's been some disagreements behind the scenes, but I can't speak too much of it because I don't know. From a Michigan-Penn State matchup, though, Craig, is this has to be distracting the team. There is too much noise. I get the whole embracing it thing. And well, if we're the villain, if we're hated by the nation, so be it. But these are still college kids, young adults that are still just experiencing true adversity for the first time. Like, this is serious. You're being accused of cheating. Blake Corum is apparently in a shady financial deal with someone, right? It's so allegedly. I got to say that allegedly. I don't want this show to get pinged, but when you look at this, is Michigan really able to block all of this out, or is it a huge distraction and a benefit for Penn State in this case?
It's in the Blake Corum thing. I honestly believe that one he didn't know about. I think Blake Corum used his number and his information and used his name on setting up an LLC out of Wisconsin. He claims Blake Corum says that somebody told him, "Hey, this is on the internet today before practice on Tuesday," and he got his lawyers on it. I actually think that Connor's a little shaky and that Blake Corum didn't know what was going on. I may be naive there,
right?
But as far as remaining laser focused, they have been to this point. Look, I've watched every Michigan game this year, except the one. I think I've all but one of the games I've seen. I've seen all the Penn State games and everybody as well, and they are laser focused. I don't know how they do it. Maybe that's one of Jim Harbaugh's best assets, that he's able to get this team to focus. But I will also tell you this. They have appeared focused against their schedule up to this point. They have not played anybody of the caliber of Penn State. They have certainly not played a road game like they will see at Beaver Stadium. Now, being in front of 100,000 fans is no big deal. They do that every week, but it's different when they're cheering for you versus against you. So, look, this is the first test of Michigan. They've had the easiest, slowest ramp up to the tough part of their schedule that I've ever seen. And that could be a huge factor in this game on Saturday. But so far, they have appeared laser focused on the mission, and that's to play football games.
Well, for the detriment of Penn State, that's not exactly good. You would hope that this would at least set them off course slightly. Let's flip it over to Penn State's side of things. The storylines here are that, well, Penn State has no chance. A lot of people have sold out on this team. I still believe that Penn State's on an island, right? They're not good enough to be in that elite status, but they're almost too good to be considered great. Like they're all alone because they beat up on everybody else. But then when it comes to Ohio State and Michigan, I don't want to say that they don't have a chance, but there's still a gap. I thought the gap was going to be closed against Ohio State. I told you that on your show. A lot of us here thought that in Happy Valley, and it wasn't the case. Maybe it's because the horseshoe was too big for Drew Aller, who is from Ohio, right? These are 19, 20-year-old young adults, some of them kids that have to, like I said, deal with adversity. And so I can understand if that was an overly emotional game for Aller and Penn State, a James Franklin legacy game, right? But this one's a little different. Everyone is, instead of singing your praises, now it's flipped over to criticism. James Franklin's overrated. Let's push him out of Penn State again, especially if he doesn't win the Michigan game. He's no good. And that drum is getting louder once again here. That's the kind of talk that football sports teams in general respond to. How do you perceive? And then the whole number 418, that was the rushing total that Michigan had last season. Yeah. I think Penn State definitely something shifted. Penn State still has that, like, hey, we're playing football. This is serious. There's still an element of fun to it, but it's not like the way it was, throw it deep, messing with reporters. There's not a dark cloud over the Penn State football facilities right now. However, there is an element of no nonsense, all business going into this one, whereas against Ohio State, that wasn't exactly the case.
That's an interesting perspective by you. Now, full disclosure, I'm an Indiana grad, so if I had a football team that went 10-2 every year and only lost to Ohio State, Michigan, we would be absolutely thrilled. So maybe
exactly.
But so and like you said, they're really good. This Penn State is one of the best teams in the country, but they may only be the third best in the division of their conference. Look, this is a must-win game for Penn State, no doubt about it. I spent a lot of time over the summer talking them up and thinking that this team is good enough to get to the finish line. I didn't think they beat both Michigan and Ohio State, but I certainly had a thought that maybe they could split. In fact, I thought maybe all three teams would split at the time. This is before the season got going, and that's still on the table. If Penn State wins this football game, you said a lot of people think they can't win this game. They can win this game. This is a talent. I don't know if they're gonna or not, but they have the talent. You and I've talked before that they seem to be lacking one element, and that is some kind of vertical explosiveness on offense. And I think that's a legitimate concern, but everything else is in place. This is a deep football team. There's more than one way to win a football game, and we can get into that a little bit on the strategies that I think both teams will have here. But this team's too good to not be taken seriously in this game. And maybe you're right. Michigan, maybe they will be a little distracted because, again, this is Penn State's a different kind of opponent. Michigan hasn't faced an opponent like this all season long. And you keep this game close, you get it to be smash mouth with the running backs on both sides. I think maybe it could be a pretty interesting football game.